Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and I talk a lot about Salesforce. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how I passed the Salesforce Sales Representative certification. As of recording this, I passed it about 6.5 hours ago, so it is still pretty fresh in my mind about what I did to prepare and what I did to pass. Few notes of housekeeping before we get into the meat of the video. One, there's going to be timestamps down below to the different sections of this video, mainly what is the Sales Rep exam, kind of going over it, my background before taking the exam, because I think that's really helpful to understand, the resources I used, and then any additional resources that I found helpful after the fact. Housekeeping item number 2 is that I'm going to be doing a series on how I passed the certain Salesforce exams that I have passed. As of today, I've passed 5, and so I will be doing a catch-up of all those certifications, and then any new certifications I get, I will go ahead and post a video. Number 3 is that I'm currently 6 months pregnant, and so if I'm out of breath, I'm really sorry, and my thoughts might not be too clear, so if you have any questions about clarifying certain things that I say, please leave a comment down below and I'll try and get back to you. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into about the exam. So the Salesforce Certified Sales Rep exam is a newer exam. I think as of today, it came out 9 days ago. And so I was a little bit hesitant to take this certification because there isn't a lot known about the certification, but after doing a little research, seeing other people passing and then them sharing their experiences online, I thought, you know what, I might as well take it. A few things that I did want to wait for was for the Trailhead trail mix to be available. They didn't release it until they released the sales certification exam, so that was a little bit of a bummer not to be able to do that prior, but I did go ahead and do that. About the exam, it is 60 to 65 questions depending on if you get those 5 non-scored questions or not. I did happen to get those this time. You don't know where they are or they're just baked in within the exam. Also, a couple of other things. Exam was a choose one question or one answer out of 3 rather than a lot of other exams like the admin exam, the app builder exam. They have like a choose 1 out of 4 or a 2 out of 5 or a 3 out of 5. Also, something that was new to me from this exam was that I was able to take notes on the screen, which was really helpful. In previous exams that I've taken that have not been Salesforce related, it's been nice to write down notes of things I kind of remember that aren't necessarily related to that question, but might be related later and help jog my memory. So that was a really nice change to see. Okay, so a few other things about it. It is a passing score of about 70%, or I think 42 questions that you have to get right out of those 60 that are scored. It is $200, and then it is $100 for retakes, plus applicable fees and or taxes. There are going to be 6 different sections, and I'll just go off these real quick. I'll leave the exam guide down below, but it's going to be planning at 21%, customer engagement at 15%, deal management at 37%, so that's a huge weight on the exam, pipeline management at 12%, forecasting at 6%, and customer success at 9%. So there are some smaller sections that definitely help trickle up those points, and then there are some bigger sections that you really should pay a lot more attention to while studying. For me and my background and while studying, the exam kind of felt like it was a process of elimination with understanding some of the terminology that is used within sales. Similarly to how the BA exam felt, but substitute business analyst terminology with sales terminology and sales processes. It was really useful to know a lot of the sales terms and the sales jargon, as you will, and then just using my common sense and any applicable experience I had when working adjacent to sales teams to then process elimination or just pick out the correct answer from those 3 answers that they had provided. All right, let's jump into the next section of this video, which is going to be my background prior to taking the exam. I find this really helpful when I am taking an exam to understand the background of the person who's giving the advice, just so that I can match or gauge where I'm at versus the person who's talking to me. So personally, I've been working on Salesforce for, at the time of taking this exam, for 8 years. First, as an end user, as a pool receptionist, who I was just writing down the different pieces of information that the customers gave me. I'm not really too heavy into any like automation or being a super user or anything. I didn't even really know what Salesforce was or that I was using Salesforce. And then I eventually worked my way up to be an admin after I graduated college. And then I didn't really touch sales too much in my first position doing Salesforce. In my first position was more heavily IT focused rather than sales focused. And so I was using a lot of the customizations that first company had. And then another company that I'd worked for, I was working very closely with sales to do discovery as to how Salesforce can really improve their sales processes and what they're currently doing within Salesforce. But with both these positions, I was not a salesperson. I was not using Salesforce day to day as a sales rep trying to close deals, but I did learn a lot about the process. And for me, that really felt like it was enough when mixed with kind of reminding myself of the different terminology as well as the different strategies. All right, so what did I use to study for this exam? I actually only studied for this exam for like 2-ish days. And because this is such a new exam and new certification, there isn't really too much out there as far as resources go. So I did start off by using the trail mix that I'll link down below, or all of these resources will be linked down below, just then you guys can use them. So I used the trail mix, but I personally am more of an auditory learner and visual learner. So what I did was I used the Natural Reader plugin to Chrome, which will read to you. It might be just an automated robot voice, but for me, it was a lot easier to understand and to really comprehend a lot of the information. And so I used Natural Reader and I completed the whole trail mix in about 2 days. I probably could have done it in 1 day, but I was potty training my 2-year-old, so I was really only doing this at night for 2 to 3 hours each night. And I felt like I did pretty well when I was working on those modules within the trail mix. The trail mix is a mix of about 20 to 30 modules, plus a bunch of different blog posts and documentation from Salesforce. I think all of the modules they're just modules. They weren't projects, so there was no hands-on within Salesforce. It was just a lot of, this is what this type of strategy is for this type of thing. So like understanding pricing, it was a lot of using bundle pricing and versus setting up bundle pricing within CPQ, if that makes sense, where you're gonna read a bunch and then you'll answer the question. I did do fairly well on the question, so I felt like I was gonna do pretty well on the exam after studying and learning the vocabulary terms. So after I'd gone through the whole trail mix, I was feeling fairly confident, but I wanted to kind of take that and put some of those vocabulary terms and put them into a Quizlet that I could revisit a couple times a day in the days leading up to the exam. I think I scheduled it on Thursday, so I had Wednesday I studied the trail mix, Thursday I studied the trail mix, and then I took the exam on a Saturday. So Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday morning I did revisit that Quizlet and kind of remind myself of those terms. So then I was at least familiar with it. And if I was presented with those terms, I could remember those terms, or if I didn't automatically remember those terms, I could use context clues to kind of eliminate which questions were right or definitely weren't going to be right. And I will leave that Quizlet down below. I'll try and add a couple more terms that I felt like were missing, but I'll put those in links. And then another resource that I used was a fellow content creator. I think his name's Dinesh. I'll put his blogs down below. He had come out with a series of practice questions that you could use to test yourself on your knowledge. So I did test myself using those practice questions. And I got only 1 wrong out of the 30 that had been provided. So I felt pretty confident again going into the exam. I also used practice exams and any terms that I did not feel confident in 100% on the Quizlet as well. And then I think the morning that I took the exam, so this morning before I took it, he had updated some of his notes. So I did read over those as well as the Quizlet again. And then I just kind of relaxed and tried to calm down because I get some anxiety around taking tests. Those were the few resources that I did use and that I did have to pass the exam. And so I sat down this morning to take the exam. Personally, I like to take a break after every 5 to 10 questions and kind of take a breather, recenter myself, and kind of relax, because if not, I'll get too in my head about the questions. And those were the resources that I used. Any additional resources that I find between or when I film this video and when I post this video, I'll try and leave in the links as well. Again, I'll be trying to update those terms, I guess, that I thought were necessary or that were helpful to understand and know at least somewhat for the exam. And in talking with my husband Jeremy, who a lot of you do know, if you don't know him, he is a I think 14-time certified Salesforce architect. We like to create courses together. We will be creating a course on this particular exam, and we hope for it to be similar to how our associate exam is, to where you could take it within a week, the whole course within a week, and then be able to, at the end of the week, pass the exam. I feel like this exam is a very doable one to be able to do that for. Keep your eye out for that course when we do decide and are ready to launch it. A couple other things about the exam is I feel like you do find that there is a coupon code floating around in the Salesforce universe for as far as how it's going to fit overall into the ecosystem. I think that this is a great one for Salesforce admins to use to understand the sales process better, and for sales users themselves who may be new to selling to be able to understand some of the strategies and terminologies surrounding the greater sales, tech sales, not even tech sales, other sales strategies and such. So if you are going to take it, I recommend finding a coupon code for it. It's not going to be one of those in the greater Salesforce ecosystem that's going to be like, oh my gosh, once you get this, you're going to get your wonderful job that you've always been searching for. I don't think it's going to really be like that. It's not going to be like the Dev 2 or the CTA of Salesforce. But it is a really nice one to study for, to be able to do your job better, similarly to how the BA exam and certification is within the ecosystem. But with that being said, that's kind of my thoughts on the exam, on the certification, how I passed, the resources I used, and our hopes going forward for creating the course. Of course, if you have any questions, be sure to leave them down below. Give this video a like, subscribe if you're feeling generous. We're getting close to 15,000, which is just absolutely crazy. Thank you guys so much. You can check out the courses down below. We're hoping to have the sales rep hopefully up before this baby comes out of my belly, which should hopefully both be soon. So thank you so much, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.